When Franklin Roosevelt became president, the main crisis that was affecting the country was the Great Depression. And Herbert Hoover, who was the president at the time, initially started off with a program of austerity. The government needs to cut back its spending. Everybody needs to tighten their belts. We'll get through this. And there was a lot of frustration that we weren't getting through it fast enough. And so then Roosevelt changed mid-course, ran on a campaign of stimulus, and Roosevelt said, I'm betting big on stimulus. We're talking New Deal. So what Roosevelt ended up doing was he came in and he said, okay, we're going to stimulate the economy with government money, and realized that we're on a gold standard, so every dollar had to be backed by a certain amount of gold. And all the dollars that could be printed were printed, and so he needed to get more gold. So there was a lot of gold in circulation at the time. So a $20 gold piece would have $20 worth of gold in it. And so what he ended up doing was he had signed a controversial executive order that mandated that Americans turn in their monetary gold, the gold that you had as money, and the government would give you the paper equivalent of that. So you would, in essence, turn in a $20 gold piece and get a $20 bill for it. That would do two things. One is people were hoarding gold because of the uncertainty, so they weren't spending. Now that people got paper money, and that paper money wasn't exchangeable for gold, it was just paper, they wanted to spend it before it wasn't worth anything anymore. So in one way, it was forcing people to stimulate the economy. And second, he ended up acquiring this huge amount of gold reserves, of which he could print more money because now he had more gold in government's possession. And Americans at that time had a greater trust level with their government. And so when the government said this was for the good of the country, most of them were dutiful and turned it in. You were allowed to keep maybe $100 worth of gold coins, or rare ones that you could argue that they were basically collector's coins. But for the most part, anything above that, you had to turn it in. There were a number of people who then rebelled against that, saying, the government ain't taking my gold. And so they hid it, they kept it away from government. Government never found out about it, never prosecuted them, never fined them. And that's where you get hordes popping up every now and then in the United States. Some of that gold went over to Europe, and went into banks over there for safekeeping. And that's every now and then you find a new hoard that has been leaked out to the public little bit by little bit, but that comes from a lot of pre-1933 gold that was ferried overseas to get out of the reach of US government hands.